No.
No.
Perhaps treacherously close.
It is never over until it's over. When the fat lady sings, isn't that the slogan? And when the fat lady sings, it's over. Now, she might be clearing her throat.
We saw the great country of Germany in the 1920s brought to its knees. Hitler came into power and destroyed the country. We see countries like Zimbabwe in Africa, which was once a prosperous breadbasket, now just wrecked. Argentina was destroyed by the socialist Perón in the 50s. It was one of the richest countries in the world. So, no, we're not at the point of no return, but it's getting pretty late in the day. There's no time to be casual, that's for sure.
We've spent too many years thinking, because we have Republicans in office or the stock market is doing well, that everything's okay. This is why the left has gained so much ground. It doesn't matter who's been in office. They've just continued pushing forward with their agenda. Well, I believe this is our last chance to push back.
If people are looking for something to do, we have our work cut out for us.
I believe one of the things that we can do that will have a profound impact in changing America is praying.
Well, as soon as we get off our knees, we need to get on our feet.
Become educated about what's going on in the country.
Spend time reading.
Understand their philosophy and their goals. They have to master this documentary. They have to go over it a dozen times.
It might be having a monthly movie night with family and friends, watching one of the many great documentaries out there about what is going on in our country.
One of the things that I think people in the United States who believe in our country, believe in our values, can do, quite frankly, is stand up for those values, to make their views known.
And there's times that you got to speak up, and you've got to call things what they are.
We need to be willing to be criticized and to not be silent because of the criticism.
It was Martin Luther who said, if we're faithful on all battlefronts besides, it's precisely where the battle's the hottest, then we're traitors to the cause.
I like the quote by Abraham Lincoln, who said that silence makes cowards out of the best of men. And we got a lot of people that need to be speaking up right now.
We have an obligation to speak the truth about the policies that are taking us 180 degrees from God's will.
Expand within your church. Expand within the people you have contact. Bring them up to speed and knowledge on what's going on.
We need to organize those around us. By simply mobilizing the unique groups of people we are in contact with and being their source of information, we can have an extraordinary effect.
Lenin said that the organized minority will beat the disorganized majority every time.
Why should we be buying products from companies that are going to fund organizations that attack our values?
They need to be really smart in using the mass media. They might want to blog.
Using the power of YouTube and that sort of thing to educate as many people as possible. A good YouTube video can reach millions of people. And if Susan Boyle can do it, why can't we?
If you do the right kinds of things on YouTube that are creative and do them frequently, you can drive a message through society, influencing millions at almost no cost.
We need to be the people who graciously but consistently make contact.
And express to those folks we elected what we want them to do, and what we believe in, what we think is right. And if they don't follow those things, then we need to make efforts to get them out and get other people in that will.
Pick the good ones and stick to them. Don't waste your time on people who won't stand up for their country.
All the others are making contact. The people who really want to honor America need to make contact.
We also need to be influencing our own families. We've got to teach our own children and grandchildren the difference between truth and error, why they believe the things they do, and the true source of America's greatness.
If what we're talking about is true, the most important thing we can do is protect our young, because that is where all of this is leading. They need to get that younger generation under their belt.
And more parents are going to have to say, they're just going to have to sacrifice and take responsibility for their kids' education, because that's really where it starts. to impart that belief. The Southern Baptists, we're seeing that 85% of their kids, after they get out of their home, are essentially rejecting their faith, rejecting what they were taught. And of course, I think the reason for that is because their parents didn't have a lot of influence over them.
I believe the public schools are the greatest cultural influence in this country.
You homeschool your kids or get them in a Christian day school.
If there is any way at all, homeschool your children. Homeschoolers out-test everybody.
Our children need to be taught from Scripture a properly biblical worldview.
That requires time. It requires effort. It requires purpose.
Our minds should be the sharpest minds in the world.
We need to work within our family to educate our children on what kind of country they live in and build their faith, and then get involved.
The left has been working for decades to push us away from God and His laws, and we need to be willing to sacrifice whatever it takes to turn our country back to Him. Throughout our history as Americans, though, there has always been a great price to be paid for preserving, protecting, and defending this great land.
The people who built America paid a great price. The people who went to war for our nation, boy, did they pay a price. And one of the American values was, we will pay a price for what is right. We will give of ourselves, even if it requires the giving of our lives. That was an American value. That's why it is such a heroic and honorable thing when a soldier defending us pays that price. That's like when you go to Arlington Cemetery in Washington, or the Tomb of the Unknown. You stand there and you say, this is America. We were the people who so believed in these values that it's an honor to stand for, even if it can cost you your very life.
One thing I think we do need to remember, though, is that as we look at those we consider to be heroes in the past, they weren't people who just went along with the status quo. They weren't people who were just saying what was accepted at that time in history. They were people who were rising up above the evil that was being committed in their culture at that time. That's why they were heroes, because they weren't like everyone else.
Never, ever lose sight of the power of one individual American. They can have an unbelievable magnifying effect just by the very fact they make up their mind to do so.
I believe that's the only chance, the only hope we have as a nation. Hope is not found in rhetoric. Hope is found in God, the God of creation. And you know what? Our founders were in covenant with that God.
You need a dedicated, informed, praying Christian making things happen and being determined to do so.
Time has only allowed me to present a fraction of what I found. The reason I called this film Agenda is because I wanted to make a clear distinction between what I was researching and all the conspiracy theories out there. The dictionary says a conspiracy is an evil plan formulated in secret by two or more persons, but an agenda is simply a list of things to be done. At every turn of my investigation, I found agendas by people and groups of the left outlining their plan in their own words. They've been doing most of this right out in the open. Some of you might be thinking, these Marxist ideas aren't the most serious threat we face. What about militant Islam, our open borders, the national debt, or even China? Well, I agree. America is facing so many serious threats right now. But the reason I believe this is the most dire is because it's destroying us on the inside. Through the political correctness and dumbing down, it's causing us to lose our ability to call evil evil and stand against it. I fear for our country If we go along business as usual, not informed, not aware of what's going on, then the very small minority that have a plan and are great at organizing the uninformed and misguided will make sure their plan is carried out. I hope you realize it won't just be your children and grandchildren that pay the horrific price of living in the society they're trying to create. No, it will be far worse than that.
Every time a civilization goes down or a country goes down militarily or economically, somebody else fills the gap. Now, if you look around the world now, it's going to be China, which is massively arming. You've got Russia, which is becoming increasingly belligerent. You've got the radical Islamic world, which works hand in glove with the Russians and the Chinese all the time. You've got a virtually red Latin America. You've got a neutral socialist Europe. So America hasn't got a lot of friends left in the world. Now, that's just not going to affect America. That's going to affect every single remaining country in the free world. Who's going to stand up to China if America doesn't? Who's going to stand up to the Russians? Is Europe going to do it? Australia, New Zealand, Canada? Not a chance. If America, and this is the point I think Americans need to comprehend, if America goes down economically, it will go down militarily. If America goes down militarily, we all go down. The free world is finished, and it will be finished for a very, very long time.